pasta.
Or anything Italian. You know, having been to Italian, the food there is so much. Hate to say it, but it really stands out. The vegetables, the fruit, and especially the pizzas. So this whole show is all about pizzas. And with us is Fred Mortati, who is from Orlando Foods, and he'll be talking to us about everything you want to know about pizzas and what flours you use and why you should use it, and tomatoes and all his stuff that he's a distributor of Italian foods and
cheeses,
everything,
and tomatoes,
olive oil, all good stuff.
Olives, yum.
So if you want to know more about it, you have to listen. So
Yep.
he'll be on in about 10 minutes. So anyway, let's get a couple of commercials out of the way. One is All Magic Paint and Body. This is a great company that unfortunately I had to go to, or fortunately actually. My car got rear-ended, and I've known them for many years, and they've been in business for over 30 years, family-owned and operated. They have state-of-the-art equipment, tools to ensure optimum results. They use the latest technology and computerized color matching, excuse me, specialize in frame repair with their modern laser measuring system, and they're OEM certified. And best of all, everything is guaranteed for life. So whatever you do, as long as the original work that they do it's still intact, if there's anything wrong with it, they'll cover it and fix it for you. So you really can't beat it. The other nice thing about them is if you need a rental car, they'll provide the service where the rental car comes to you, and so you just take off with the rental car, and then when you're ready to get to your car, you bring it back to there, and guess what? Just drop it off there, and the rental car will come and pick it up. So, excuse me, that's a really nice feature about them. So All Magic Auto Paint and Body Collision Centers are located in Norco, Eastvale, Moreno Valley, and in Fontana. And you can visit them at allmagicauto.com. That's allmagicauto.com. And I highly recommend. They do great work. The other thing, too, is they really keep you on top of it. They give you emails, or they'll call you and let you know what's going on. They'll text you with all the information. So if they order a part and it hasn't come in, it's going to be wild. They'll let you know about that. But it's nice to know what's going on instead of being left in the dark, which Izzy, a couple times she's been in there doing that kind of stuff. And that's what happens, unfortunately, with a lot of them. So, right?
Not with them, but...
Not with them, but others, yeah. Not with them, so.
Exactly.
Okay, another sponsor of ours who we really appreciate. I'm really excited. It's Ray's Shanghai Bistro in Redlands. Now, they're going to be they're going to be moving. I had too much pizza last night, too. They're going to be moving to a new site. It should be around the 8th, so it should be by next week. And Izzy, why don't you talk to them a little bit about that?
Yeah, they're currently located next to the Redlands DMV on Lagonia in Redlands before the move, and they offer the largest, most delicious and array of traditional and original Chinese dishes available in the Inland Empire. Some of my favorite dishes are the pork soup dumplings, house-made pot stickers, crispy pork spare ribs with garlic, and there's spicy lamb with bamboo or with toothpick lamb, which is amazing, and the sweet and tangy deep-fried orange peel beef, and the savory basil spicy shrimp, plus lots of vegetarian dishes like Allan's favorite, which is the hot and sour soup. And sounds like Allan might need one right now. He has a frog in his throat. The hot and sour soup totally would help him. Whether you dine in or pick up the food or have them cater your next party or special occasion, you will see why Ray's, R-U-I', is truly the best Chinese restaurant in the Inland Empire. Their website is rayshanghai.bistro.net. It's spelled R-U-I-S, Shanghai, S-H-A-N-G-H-A-I, Bistro, B-I-S-T-R-O.net. That's rayshanghai.bistro.net.
Okay, I'll try to go through this. I think I'm coming down with a cold, but I know.
Stay away from me.
But I don't think it's COVID. It's not COVID. I know that. So.
Okay, we don't know yet that.
No, it's not. Tobias Maynard, he's my dentist, and I'm really excited about him because, for one thing, he talks to you, not down to you. He's very, very caring about your teeth. It's, if he doesn't have to pull it, he's not going to. He doesn't have to do anything to it. He won't. He does cosmetic, holistic, family dentistry, and everything he does is unbelievable. And friendly staff, they're really, really nice, and they're on top of things. And I just highly recommend them. So if you need a good dentist, again, it's Tobias Maynard, DDS. The website is 909-792. I'm sorry, the phone number, 909-792-1775. That's 909-792-1775. Or you can go to the website, pearlywhitesdds.com. That's Pearly, Pearly, Whites, Whites, DDS.com. Okay.
Well, the next segment before we speak to Fred, we did go by Inez at Tamales and More today again. Inez Tamales and More, which is in Redlands, and we picked up Joel, our engineer. He wasn't here last week, so he missed out the whole tamale thing. So he actually got to taste the cheese and jalapeno tamales.
Joe, what did you think of them? Get on the air. No, come on, get on the air. What do you think about them? What do you like about them best, and what do you think about them overall?
Oh, very good. Loads of cheese in it. That's what I like.
How about the masa? Wasn't it airy and fluffy?
The what?
The masa,
The tamale.
tamale.
Oh yeah, it was great.
He was licking his fingers and gave me 2 thumbs up earlier.
And he ate 3 of them at one time.
Yes.
I can't even eat 3. So
So
anyway, it's Inez, Ines, Tamales and More in Redlands. It's on
Vine.
Vine Street, 22 Vine Street.
Yep. And their address is 22 East Vine Street, Redlands, California. It's 909-406-1455. Once again, it's 909-406-1455. It's Inez, Ines, Tamales and More.
So,
Tell them, Alan and Izzy say hi.
yeah, so you heard it on the radio, and who
Yep.
knows? They won't kick you out, I don't think. They liked us. We brought a lot of customers to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I'm really excited about Fred being on. I see the red blinker on. But again, every year for the last 10 years, I've been a judge at the International Pizza Expo. And you were able to come, I think, the last 2 times.
Yes.
And it's an incredible show, incredible people, the nicest people in the world. I've never seen a group of people that help each other, unlike other chefs. They want to make it. You know, Tony, who
You mean
started
the
the whole thing.
Pizziolas?
Piziolas, when I
Yeah.
say chefs,
Yeah,
chefs,
chefs,
Piziolas.
yeah.
They really care about their art. It's an art. It's a piece of art, and they take it very seriously. Yet they're not serious enough not to help each other, and that's one thing. I mean, it's very competitive in the competition, but they'll help each other out. And again, a good pizza starts not only with pizziola, but obviously with great ingredients. And here's a gentleman who I met at the show last year, and we were just going through some of the pamphlets, and we were like shocked, like flour. How much
Oh,
flour?
wow.
How
It
many
was
different
an-
flours can there be? Well, guess what?
I know. I literally had to get a fold-out Cliff Note version just to go, oh wow, there's a whole breakdown of what kind of flour and what they're used for. So it's full education, and you know the whole thing about making dough is not as simple as you think, and there's actually a process and different types of flour you use, how much yeast you use, and how long you're supposed to ferment it. So it's
Right.
really an art.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And we went to last year, almost at this time, went to Greece and Italy. And so we spent a lot of time in Italy. And I'll tell you, the tomatoes, the fruit, the vegetables are so much better than here. I have
And
to.
the pizza.
Well, the
Woo,
pizzas too, but I'm just
yum.
everything about them. So, anyway, Orlando Foods is the company that Fred works for. And on the line is Fred Mortati, and he's from Orlando Foods. And Fred, welcome to the Let's Sign Out show.
Hi, thanks, Alan. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So, again, Orlando Foods, for those of you that don't know much about it, it's a third-generation company, and they specialize in importation and distribution of flours, tomatoes, basically ingredients from Italy. And almost every pizziola out there uses their flours and a lot of their ingredients. So I thought, you know, a lot of people out there, it's incredible how many pizza ovens are out there. You know, 2-3 years ago there was like 1 or 2. Now there's probably 8 or 9 or 10 or 100 of them. I mean, all kinds. And you know, you can make restaurant quality pizzas at home under 2 minutes, and that's what it's all about. And so that's why we have Fred on. So Fred, let's talk a little bit about flour first, and let's talk about your company first, and then get right into the flours.
Sure. So we're a third-generation importing company. It was a company started by my grandfather after World War II, when he'd noticed a void really for like authentic Italian foods in the U.S., and they started importing some goods that kind of came from, from Italy and filling kind of the local markets and the cities where immigrants had settled. And, if you fast forward, a bunch of years, that morphed into what we really do now, where we work specifically with a couple of companies overseas, and we are the U.S. importer for a few important companies that are really associated heavily with the artisan pizza trade. So Caputo, which is the number one brand of flour in Italy at the higher quality level. Ciao, which is a tomato cannery in the south of Italy, some cannery that we have an interest in. Lupara, which is buffalo mozzarella producer, also in the south of Italy. They're a farmstead cheese, so they have all their own land. They grow all their own corn and alfalfa to feed 3,000 head of water buffalo they have, and they make cheese right there on site every day.
That's neat.
Wow.
So, so we bring those ingredients, and we work with a lot of pizzaioli around the U.S. to educate as well people about the difference and benefits in imported from Italy products.
And the benefits are really, really incredible. I mean,
It's just better tasting.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think their produce and their cheese is so much better than what we can buy like here. I think, I think it's because soil difference and just the quality is so much better.
Well, Fred, why don't you talk about a little bit of what makes Italian ingredients so much better than here in a lot of different areas?
Well, I think, you touched on a couple of things. One is, first of all, the all-natural. As an example, we can talk about Caputo from the flour side. Anybody going to Italy, and like our core mission is really to bring Italian flavors to our neighbors, because the one thing that everyone who comes back from Italy says is, oh my God, the food. That just seems to be a resounding theme of anybody who travels there, and you've been there, and I think you recognize that it's almost hard to have a bad meal. And a lot of that's now come into the U.S. I mean, the world's a much smaller place. People travel like crazy. And one thing we see is the acceptance or even the desire to have really authentic ingredients, to buy the right equipment, to have the right kind of training, and then to apply those same ingredients. Of course, you can get a meal in America now the same way as if you were standing in, if it's Turkish restaurants, like being in Istanbul. If it's Italian, it could be just like being in Naples. I think it's one of the greatest things that's happened in the last 20 years, this kind of revolution towards authenticity.
Right.
And it's been great for us because we've enjoyed being here's some of the people spreading the passion and education for authentic Italian food.
No, definitely. I mean, every pizzaiolo that I've talked to, anybody in the profession, your company comes up there. I mean, everyone thinks very highly of you and your company and the products. And I'm telling you, I mean, you've seen it. The pride the people have in their foods and their products are amazing. And I wish every cuisine, every chef out there had the pride like with this group of people here. And it's a very special group. I mean, I've been, being a judge in between eating and tasting everything. I was walking around, and the one that really got me was there was a gentleman who's one of the products that he got, it didn't turn out. He brought it over from, I want to say Alabama or somewhere, and it didn't turn out. And the guy next to him, his competitor who he's going against, said, "Here, take some of mine." And I was like, wow. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, everyone hugs each other, and they mean it. It's not this phoniness. And I mean, I'm sure you see that too. It's a very special group of people.
It's been a great industry to be in for these years, for my 30-year career, and I have to tell you, there's so much velocity in the industry now, and I think some of these things you were mentioning about the camaraderie is one of the reasons that a lot of people want to come into it. A lot of people do want to work in food because doing things that they love, and they've realized that there's a lot of demand for really high-quality food. One of the things that you're mentioning that really is true, and it's hard for outsiders unless you've really seen it, the pizzaioli in the industry, these could be the guys who actually start and own multiple restaurants, or they could be people that strictly are the high-end pizza maker within the location. They give each other a tremendous amount of support. You'd be shocked what a small world it is. Many of them keep in contact with each other inside these large groups. They share recipes. They share thoughts about new ways to, bring about new kinds of pizza in the artisan world, and that could be like a movement towards more contemporary style pizza, which uses some pre-ferments and gives like a really really airy kind of crust, and like a really soft, quickly digestible morsel. It's just really interesting to watch these guys share thoughts and process very freely. When I jumped on, you were just kind of talking about that, and you are absolutely hitting the nail on the head there. It's, I think, one of the things that definitely separates that industry from others.
No, definitely. There was a pizza company around here, right? A restaurant that unfortunately no longer in business. But about 4 or 5 years ago, when Sean, the late Sean Ronzoni, started, he brought in the Detroit-style pizzas. I was one of the judges there, and it was like amazing. All of us have never been amazed like that. But one of the pizza guys who had the restaurant came to me and goes, "It's probably the best pizza I ever had. I wish we can have the recipe." And I said, "Well, go to Sean. He'll help you out." And sure enough, Sean gave him the recipe, hooked him up. It was amazing. You just don't see that in restaurants. There's so many egos, and don't get me wrong, they have a lot of egos there too. But the first thing is they want to help each other. So anyway, I don't want to belittle this. We can take a whole hour talking how great the people are. But let's talk about flour first. Again, one of the things that we notice in your pamphlets is a lot of different flours that Caputo makes. And let's talk about some of the different ones they make and what makes them different.
Yeah. So really, this flour mill in Naples, Italy, which is the historical mill there. The Caputo mill has been was first established in 1924. So next year is the 100th year anniversary. A huge amount of history.
Wow.
A lot of the companies in Italy tend to be these multi-generational. It's part of the culture. Things stay within the family. People grow up kind of inside the business, and they've learned from the ground up. So Caputo has many advantages versus some other millers because the depth of their story. They have its history of 100 years of knowing all the various wheat growing regions, when is the right time to buy wheat in what kind of situations to find the very best qualities. So they buy wheat all throughout Europe. They don't only buy wheat in Italy. And I think the biggest advantage they have is that they use about 8 varieties of wheat, regardless of the flour that they're making. And you'd mentioned something important, concept that depending on what you're making, you may not use exactly the same kind of flour. So at Caputo, their motto is a flour for every purpose. We design and create a flour that uses the same kinds of wheat, but in different percentages in every bag to give a very specific kind of performance. Mm-hmm. So if I'm making Neapolitan pizza, as an example, I want a flour that has strong gluten, but I need it to be very elastic so that the pie opens up really easily under stretching, that the dough remains soft and silky, mm-hmm. that it has a certain level of water absorption, and that it cooks in 60 to 90 seconds. Yep. Now, that is a very different product than I'm going to want when I go make another pizza-based product like focaccia, mm-hmm. where I cook the focaccia for maybe 9 minutes in an oven that has a very different temperature than my Neapolitan high-heat wood-burning oven.
Well, that's the other thing. There's a lot of different ovens, and temperatures make a difference and everything. But in terms of the flour for pizza, the best one is the 00. And it was funny, when I was in Italy, in Naples, and also Rome, everywhere I went to, we had pizza as much as we could. And one of the first questions I mentioned was like, "Do you guys use 00?" And they looked at me like, "How do you know? You're just an American. How do you know?" And but 00, and you can find it now on the shelves of a lot of market, which is really neat. And a lot of companies are doing that. But in terms of 00, Caputo's 00, that's pretty much the industry standard for the best, Napoleon pizza.
Napolitano,
pizza.
yeah.
You get excited.
It's really become, we've worked really hard to educate people, and I think once you really get into the point of understanding the product, and when you really start splitting hairs, you do identify that this is definitely the gold standard. It's called 00, 00 pizzeria flour. It is amazing for use in any kind of high heat application. And, from there's a variety of other double zero flours that Caputo mills for different uses. One for making pasta, one for making pastry,
Oh, wow.
one for making like cakes, another one for making what we have. We developed something that performs really well with a very high, strong gluten network when you're making dough that you need to rise for a long time. Something like we think about in like a traditional New York style pizza, traditional American pizza that cooks in 9-minute, cook times in electric or gas stack ovens. So it's all just inside the wheat blend. So when you blend wheats from Northern Europe with Southern Italy, you get these different characteristics that you can put together all basically inside one final product.
Right. No,
And that's the real key, is how you blend the wheats to get that final performance. That's their secret ingredient ultimately.
the other thing that impresses me is that they don't just stand on their laurels. I mean, everyone's trying to be better. Once they reach the point where, like, yeah, this is where we want to get to, they said, okay, now that we're here, let's get higher. Derek Sanchez, who we're really friends with, he's that way. He's like a mad scientist when it comes to pizza dough. He's incredible. And, you got somebody, John Arena and Tony, and all they do is really spend their time always developing and thinking. Their minds are always going, even though they have an award-winning great pizza dough. And that seems like the companies, too. They're always coming out with new ones.
I think you have talked about, when you speak about guys like Derek Sanchez, our great friend, we call him Dr. Derek. I think that, it's really important to recognize that we're in a trade that is constantly evolving, and it's still evolving. And what's really interesting is if you look at the birth of pizza in Naples, Italy, 200 years ago, 150 years ago, when really the first margarita was made in the 1880s. And you recognize that there's been a traditional way of doing that for 150 years. If you go to Naples today, the basis of what was traditional still is involved, but there's a little different technique in how some of these young pizzaioli coming up in that city, gaining a lot of popularity, are treating their dough. How they're doing things which just represents a slight evolution. You're starting with the same roots, but again, even that is evolving, and I think we've seen that in the United States. I mean, the pizza scene in the U.S. is tremendous. Mm-hmm. I think we could say that if you really went back 30 years ago, New York was always considered the capital of pizza for the U.S., right? That's kind of where it started and then spread out. But this revolution of great artisan product, because they've gone to Italy and trained, because they've gotten the same ingredients now, because we have the product as an example. We have flour and tomatoes today sold in every state, including Alaska and Hawaii. So it's everywhere. And what's amazing is, I don't care where you go in the country, what city you're in, you can find at least one high-quality place in every city. And when I grew up, that was not the case.
No, definitely.
The first time I went to Grand Canyon with my family when I was 16 years old, 40 years ago, there was Pizza Hut and there was nothing else.
Right.
So this has really changed considerably now.
And being a judge, again, I was very fortunate to taste pizzas from around the world. I mean, we're talking Spain, Japan, Austria, Australia. I mean, literally everywhere. Dubai, there was a chef one time who came out, and actually he won, Ali, here in Studio City. And but it's just it's amazing. And like the one from Japan, they use fish cakes, they use nori, they use stuff that normally you don't find on traditional pizzas. But it was excellent. Ali, who actually won, Ali, he made one with chicken tikka. It had an Indian influence, and that just blew everybody away. It was like fantastic. So, but yeah, 00 for those of you that have pizza ovens at home or just your regular oven, you want to try making it. Highly recommend it. And let's give your website out first. It's orlandofoods.com.
It is.
Okay.
And for consumers, the easiest place to find Caputo flour or Chow tomatoes, quite honestly, It's straight up on Amazon. There's an authorized reseller on Amazon of our goods. Um, we are primarily a company that sells to the restaurant distributors around the country. Those are our customers. We
Right.
bring the goods from Italy. They're inside all the major restaurant distributors in every city, and that's our core business. Our core business is actually not selling to retailers,
Mm-hmm.
but it is a new division that started last year,
Right.
and we're starting to have some placement on some shelves. But there's a very good and fluid business just through Amazon.com. It works out really well for all the Caputo flowers.
Right.
Yeah, and people can actually go on orlandofoods.com and get some recipes for some of the doughs and how to make some of these amazing pizzas and pastas out there. So, I
Yeah.
mean, anybody interested should really visit your website to get educated, I think.
Right. And
There are two new websites that are going to be launched in 30 days. One is called CaputoFlower.com, and the other is ChowTomatoes.com.
Oh,
And if you go to CaputoFlower.com, in a month from now, I know this is early, but in a month from now, there's going to be a huge amount of content with both video and print showing all different kinds of recipes, all different how-to. Some of the best pizza makers in the United States are collaborating and are giving their, you talked before, Alan, about how giving these guys are.
oh, definitely.
They're happy to share and become part of it and to, share their recipes, whether it's, like I said, whether it's, we print it and we give the information, or whether it's a video, a tutorial of how to do it at home. So
Right.
we're real excited about that. It's going to make everyone's life easier if you're making, pizza or bread at home.
Right. You're listening to the Let's Sign Out show right here on AM 1050 AM and Express 106.5 FM, the stations that leave no listeners behind. And with us is Fred Mortati, who is from Orlando Foods, and again, orlandofoods.com. And if you're into Italian food, and especially making Italian dishes, pizza, and also anything with tomatoes and stuff, which we'll get into right now, it's definitely the place to go to. And again, go online and we'll let you know when the website's up. So we'll inform you when it could be too. But if not, Amazon can carry a lot of the stuff here. But let's talk tomatoes. That's one thing, whether it's Greece or Italy, actually, we were blown away with the tomatoes. I mean, I thought tomatoes are tomatoes, but you hear about, oh no, there's good ones and there's bad ones. And I could, unless you taste them next to each other, it's hard to tell. But every one that we had in Italy and even Greece was amazing. I mean, wow, sweet, and had that little tang to it.
Yeah.
And what makes it? I mean, are the two items that make it so different, or what is it? The soil, or what? What makes Italian tomatoes so different and so good?
I think we go back to what we were just talking about before with even with the flour. There's a big piece of this which is know-how, and when you have as an example, we'll talk about the tomato industry. Tomatoes went to, believe it or not, so tomatoes were brought to Italy by Columbus returning, and they were brought from South America, and they in Italy were first treated as ornamental plants, and they weren't red, they were actually green. And it took some years before they realized that actually these things turn red, and somebody tried one and they're super sweet and they taste great, and they became that, this condiment for, making sauces and toppings and other things. And there's this huge industry built around this in Italy, both in the north of Italy and the south of Italy. What we all associate most of the tomatoes we see in consumer products, canned tomatoes or jarred tomato sauce, with what's grown in the south of Italy. And they're famous for these very long, skinny tomatoes. We call them pear tomatoes, but they're really big oval, right? They're really elongated, and it's because of the soil that they grow in. It's the kind of seeds that are used. It's the farmers' know-how that have been doing this for generations. Again, the farming tends to be also a generational business. So this collaboration between farmers and tomato packers, the guys who are like us, as an example, we're about an hour away from the tomato fields. Tomatoes are harvested in the months of August and September. So Mother Nature really only gives you 2 months a year to have the planting, picking, and then packing, whether it's cans or jars or whatever the packaging is that you're doing,
Mhm.
you get 2 months to get that done, and you have to do your full year of production in 2 months.
Wow.
So it's a crazy business.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, are those Roma tomatoes you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, everyone can see Romas in every
So
market, but
when we talk about Italy, the word that usually comes up is San Marzano, the
Right.
classic long tomato from the south of Italy was originally called San Marzano. And San Marzano represents a specific kind of seed that's used, and it tends to be long and skinny and very kind of soft and delicate. So it's really not good in a production setting and putting it in cans or jars, but it's used quite a bit in like sold in the fresh markets. Imagine like the fruit vendor. So in season, you're buying long tomatoes at the market. Those are San Marzano tomatoes. There's a small production of those in cans, and you'll find the cans from Italy that say San Marzano on them, and they have symbols on the can that represent the entity that actually verifies and controls the growth, distribution, and canning of
right.
that product. It's DOP, which means denomination of protected origin. So that means that if you see a San Marzano tomato that has the European symbol on the can, that has the Consortio of San Marzano symbol on the can, that you're buying a product that is grown in the region of San Marzano, that has been verified that it's coming from a San Marzano seed from the San Marzano farm, and that it's canned accordingly in this area where it's grown by a member company of the group of the Consortio.
So
That is the basis for what all other field tomatoes from Italy became, because that's a very long, skinny tomato. But again, it's not very good in a production setting because it's very fragile, so it breaks easily. So the Roma tomato that you referenced earlier, this seed is a little more robust. It's also long and skinny, not a round tomato.
but heavier.
It has a very similar flavor profile, but it just stands up much better, and you can get them into the can much easier because they're a little bit firmer, so they keep their shape and they don't break when you go through canning.
Right. Now,
So-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So that represents, the numbers are staggering. So 99.5% of all the tomatoes that are canned in Italy are this Roma variety, and only 0.5% are what I mentioned, the denomination of protected origin, authentic, real San Marzano. In the U.S., that word gets used. We don't have a standard of identity for San Marzano in the U.S., so
No.
there are people in the U.S. that use it the wrong way,
Right.
and it does tend to get mislabeled sometimes. Again, in the U.S., we don't have a standard of identity,
right.
but what people really refer to as the San Marzano style is what we call the traditional Italian tomato.
Right. Now, you also mentioned, we were talking a while back about tomatoes. Cooking tomato sauce can take all day, and you're saying that's the worst thing you could do with tomatoes is cook it all day because it kills it. And let's talk about that a little bit because that was really interesting. I never read that anywhere.
Well, I think that so let's think about it. A lot of recipes are developed by people who are having their own trial and error, and you're dealing with the products you have at the time. So if I look back and I look at my grandmother's recipe for making tomato sauce, it's a little bit different than what I would do today. And one of the reasons is that when my grandmother made tomato sauce, the tomatoes were generally canned with a super, super light tomato juice inside the can, meaning the whole tomatoes go in the can, and then there was a packing medium, which was basically it's like a red water. It was almost water texture, but it was just the tomato juice. It was literally tomatoes get crushed, they get heated to the point of killing any bacteria, and that liquid, like a very light tomato juice, goes in the can. So if I'm going to crush up my tomatoes and make sauce, I'm going to have to boil that water off for a long time. It took a long time to make sauce. The way that we can tomatoes today is we actually put a much heavier tomato juice where we take a lot of water out at the factory because we have modern technology that allows us to eliminate the water without turning the tomatoes into a pasty tasting item. Like, we can get tomato juice that really has this fresh, beautiful juice flavor with a lot of tomato solid and a lot of the water taken out.
Mm-hmm.
So now, when I crush the tomatoes and mix it and mix up that whole can, so tomato juice or tomato puree and tomatoes, and I put it on the stove, I don't need to cook it for 3 hours. My sauce is gonna be done in 45 minutes,
Wow. Okay.
maybe in an hour. Depending on certain sauces, it could be just takes 20 minutes. So it's really easy to get something done quickly.
Yeah, low and slow isn't always the best, especially with tomatoes. Like I said, they're somewhat delicate too. So, but the ones we tasted, you were nice enough to send some samples. They were amazing. I mean, it's like, oh my goodness. You know, I've tasted them on pizzas and stuff, but it's the first time I ever tasted right out of the can. And for sure, we're gonna be doing, buying those again. And
Definitely.
definitely. And again, for those that want to know more about recipes and everything, go to Orlando, ORLANDO, foods.com, and they have all kinds of information there. And either Fred or his wonderful wife, Alexandra, will get back to you if you have a question or something. Very friendly, but it's a lot of great stuff there. And let's talk another great item that you distribute is olive oil. Now, there's a million things to know about olives, and let's talk about the olive oils that you can carry.
Yeah, we work with one of the larger producers in Italy, a company called Olitalia. It's a historical family, Cremonini family, which is really steeped in tradition in Italy and have had a variety of businesses. And one of their companies, Olitalia, is an olive oil company. They do two things. Basically, they're an olive oil factory, and as well, they've developed a really interesting frying oil called Frienne, which we're also importing now because it is a really, really unique oil for frying. And any restaurant that you go to, even if you're just at home, a lot of people do this at their house where they're sauteing or frying in the home. And this company is really forward-thinking because they actually went to the University of Bologna, which is a region that their factory is near. And with their food scientists there, they developed this patented product that is a high oleic sunflower oil that has antioxidants and rosemary extract that allows it to give a performance in frying food where the oil itself doesn't get absorbed in the food. It just almost acts like a cooking medium. It's almost like equipment, like your oven.
Izzy's
Oh,
eyes
wow.
just opened up.
Yeah, it does the cooking without impacting the product, and it makes
Wow.
the fried food that's done with it is super, super light in color, very crispy, not oily, and it has a very long shelf life. So it's really interesting product they developed because it allows someone to say, we don't really study like why a good frying oil, what makes a good one, and Olitalia did that. They spent a lot of time and money in research and development to identify what's the characteristic that you want. It's just one of the things that makes them special. They have really wonderful extra virgin olive oils. In the United States, that's really in the last 20 years become commonplace. You can now, fortunately, you can pretty much find that in everybody's home kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Is that the oil that you talked about? Is that going to be available for people to buy?
Yeah, as well, the Frienne is, as well as the extra virgin olive oil that we import from Olitalia.
Great.
Those are both going to be up on the new websites very soon.
Okay.
And
now you have a website. Go ahead.
And you'll see, I believe, Alan, you mentioned you're going to come to Pizza Expo.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the month. Again, it's a industry trade show, but it is really interesting when you do see some of you mentioned like how the industry evolves. You see these new products. We're always trying to work
all
on
the time.
Different things with chefs overseas. Just what's what's new and interesting. And seeing that at the trade shows is a great place to become acquainted with it.
And you feel like family there. I mean, I'm not in the industry, but I feel like I am. I mean, Izzy and I have been accepted to everybody. I mean, from Tony to Derek to everybody, and it's just the nicest feeling. It's like family. I mean, really close family, and that's what I really like about it. But real quick, I wanted to ask you too. You have in terms of exporting and the state of the world. I know with rising costs, inflation, the war in Ukraine. I mean, there's so many things going on. Energy problems. What kind of issues is that causing you, or is it a problem?
Well, I'm happy to say that we are, for the first time in 3 years, we are on the right side of things.
Yay!
You mentioned something that was, the dirty word last year was kind of the inflation and the rising costs. So it's absolutely true that agricultural products all have undergone. I don't care what country you're in, all had certain price increases that they suffered. Part of it was because the energy to use to, whether it was water or gas to run the tractors. I mean, everything was costing more, and
Exactly.
it all had some influence on the price. From our standpoint, everybody read about in the U.S. all the problems with the steamship companies that carry goods to the U.S.
Right.
They had all raised their prices significantly because there was huge amount of demand and there were only so many vessels. So that caused a really unusual market where the steamship companies were able to vastly raise their prices. Some of the crazy things, just to put it in perspective, when COVID was raging, a container from China to America used to cost $1,500 pre-COVID, and during COVID it got as high as $20,000. So
Wow.
that kind of insanity was all driving some of the inflation we saw. And now we're finally seeing the opposite. We're seeing that start to correct. We're seeing the transportation pricing dropping. The relative supply of goods is extremely stable. Supply chain is really stable. We were really fortunate because I think during COVID was a time where people experimented a lot more in their homes with making bread,
Right.
with making pizza in the backyard. It brought a lot of attention. And then when they could go out, a lot of them went to those kinds of places. A lot of people did, because I know that pizza business in general, Italian food in general, did really well. So we actually shipped more goods and had a supply chain to do that during COVID than we did before COVID. And we see that continuing.
That's great.
This artisan pizza trend is really just at the beginning. And I think one of the fun things that you mentioned is the home ovens. There's no shortage of like companies like Uni or
Gauzy,
Guzni and these other companies that offer, really, small, not too expensive opportunities to host a party in your backyard and do it yourself.
It does.
And,
There's a learning curve to it. I mean, you can ask Izzy. If she worked at a pizza place, she'd make 2 pizzas a day, and that's it. I mean, she's kind of, not gonna say nicely, anal a little bit. Everything's got to be, everything's got to be measured. It's got to be perfectly round. But it's really a learning curve. Not only making the dough. I mean, I have so much respect for the pizza that I eat now, and that you could really tell the difference between a world class pizza and just an everyday pizza.
And then ingredients. I mean, huge difference. Like you really have to tweak it where, depends on your climate and the humidity and where you live, the type of pizza flour you're using. Like you might have to mix some 00 with something else just because where you're at. So
Right.
it was a huge learning curve, just fermenting and different thing about the dough. So
Right. Yeah.
There is, and I love that people are doing it at home, because it truly means they have an absolute appreciation, like you said, when they go out. It's a refined craft. It is not simple.
No, definitely.
It sounds simple, right? Because
Yes.
Right.
Flour, water, salt, and yeast. I make dough, or just house flour, tomatoes, and cheese, and I make pizza. But there's a lot that goes into it.
No, definitely. Especially the big rage right now is Detroit style pizza. It's really hard to find it. And
yeah,
we were-
especially in the West Coast.
Yeah, West Coast. We were able to find one that's really good. That wasn't the best I've had, but it was very, very good. So it came close at least. But no, that's one thing that's really neat. So tell us a little bit more about your company. What other ingredients do you sell? Also, you have a warehouse right here in Rancho Cucamonga, which is only about 40 minutes from here, 25 minutes from here. So maybe you can open up an outlet store there. What do you think?
We're getting there.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
we have a warehouse on the East Coast and then one on the West Coast near you, and we do quite a bit of. Most of our shipments actually take place where the goods leave the factory and they land directly at
Oh, wow.
food distributor
Uh-huh.
in the U.S. Without going anywhere else, just directly to the food distributor. So ultimately, uh, flour, tomatoes, buffalo mozzarella oil. Those are our four key ingredients. So we just call ourselves long and deep. We are very entrenched in these four industries with these four ingredients in the U.S. And we know quite a bit about those markets, those industries, those companies, and we spend all our time just trying to educate people in the U.S. chefs and soon-to-be consumers through the web with information, just authentic recipes, contact with different pizza makers, different chefs, and show technique and explain the whys and wherewithals for reasons of using these products and how they're actually different.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as you said, flour is not just flour, and tomatoes are not just tomatoes. There's so many different subtleties within the whole range of products. So there is a lot to know.
Well, you're our new best friend. Izzy just sent me a picture here. Frozen smoked buffalo mozzarella. Oh, we were just talking last night about getting like Stilton cheese. We're learning about Stilton cheese. There's only like four companies that do it. But it was like great. We love smoked. I mean, I've got about 6 smokers at home and everything. But yeah, to have frozen smoked buffalo, oh my goodness. So is that going to be available?
On Amazon.
That will also be available.
Oh,
It's
man.
a really unique product.
Oh.
Awesome.
Are you going to have samples of that by any chance at Pizza Expo?
Yeah, you'll get to try it there.
Oh, cool.
Oh, can't wait.
We're afraid we're not going to. My record is 90 pizzas in 2.5 days. That was my all-time record. But, I mean, some of them just, you can see the difference and everything. But another thing that excites me is I'm seeing more and more women come into this profession because obviously it started more of a man type of thing. But now you've got some incredible, Laura Meyer, you got some incredible people coming up that have that spunk in them. They have that. They love it, and they just want to learn, and that's a really neat thing, too. And companies like yours, I really admire because, A, you don't have a million different things like Cisco does, and it's hard to pick, when you have that many, and you just get the best of the best, and you just work on that. And you do a lot, too, in terms of giving products away for charities, for charity events, for just people want to experiment and stuff. And I have to give you a lot of praise for that because it's not just about money. It's keeping people excited, and that's how they use your product too. So it's a double-edged thing, but you're helping people too. And a lot of companies, I don't know if they do that. I know they complain a lot about money and everything, but I really appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you very much. We're really proud of two real big initiatives. One, like you said, is supporting and encouraging women in the industry. One of our marketing director is very involved in a charitable organization called Women in Pizza.
Mm-hmm.
We promote that heavily. We really think that seeing this crop of young women that have entered is encouraging. It's exciting. It's new blood. It's diversification. There's all these great things, and women. How many Italian restaurants are named after a woman, but they're run by men?
Right, exactly.
And so, now we're finally starting to see that change. It is great because again, just new blood and new people in the industry ever evolving. So we think that that's like just an amazing cause, and we've got some people in our organization really believe it and put a lot of time and energy into promoting that, and helping women have a voice. And as far as the charitable stuff goes, we're really all about just trying to educate. If people get educated, it's great for our industry,
right?
Because everybody starts making better products.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that pizza quality, that artisan quality, that authentic foods grow in the U.S., I think is better for our consumers. It means they're eating more balanced diets. They're having better for you foods.
Right.
I will tell you that pizza can be good for you.
Hmm.
If you
Well,
use good flour and good tomatoes, and you mentioned leavening before this, using yeast and how you rise the dough, and you can turn this into a complex carbohydrate if it's totally fully leavened, and all the gas production has eaten up all the sugar, and you're using just tomatoes that you grind yourself and use them as a topping, and fresh mozzarella, which is a great source of protein. You have a very complete meal on a plate that
Right.
does not need to be overly adorned
Right.
or overly complicated.
Right. No, I agree with that. And I was on the original panels for the gluten-free pizzas, and I would say the first 2 years they were awful. I mean, just god awful. Then the third year, I think the third or fourth year, when we're on the panel, Caputo came out with their flours, with their what do you call
The
gluten-free?
gluten-free flour.
And oh my goodness, it was amazing. And we were all looking at each other like, is this for real? And that's when it started, where we don't need any more a separate panel for gluten-free pizzas. Let's put them in with the regular categories. But that's come a long way too, and I see that growing and growing and growing.
It's growing leaps and bounds. And I think I think for a lot of people's dietary choice, I don't think it's specifically because of food allergy, but it took 3 years to develop that flour. A lot of R&D and a lot of time was spent in really dialing in a gluten-free flour that can give you the performance of something, let's say, similar to what regular flour does for
Very
you
similar to
in terms of performance, and it's really, really cool to see what some of these chefs have been able to get out of it.
What's exciting? A lot of new things are coming up, so we'll keep everybody abreast on it. And I want to thank you, Fred, for being on the show, and just for you and your wife, really what you've done for the profession. And I see it, I hear it all the time from people, and they have a lot of respect for you guys. And it's nice to hang around people like that. I mean, not everyone's like that, and you guys are. So I'm not here to schmooze you. I'm just here to tell you the truth. However, if you open up a what do you call it, a local one in Rancho Cucamonga, I will be there every day. So,
All right.
but well, Fred, thank you so much. Again, this is Fred Mortati. He's from Orlando Foods. The website is orlandofoods.com, and I will see you at the Pizza Expo. Both of us.
Thank you both very much.
Okay.
See you
Thank
soon.
you.
You take
All
care.
right,
Happy
see ya.
eating.
Bye. Happy eating.
Thanks. Bye.
Wow, talk about friendly and nice, and
I
that's
know.
exciting. I really an honor to be with people like that. So
Yeah.
anyway, we're on every Saturday from 4 to 5, and we're going to be on Fridays now from 5 to 6. So starting next week. So anyway, this is food critic Allan Borgen.
And Izzy Bussy.
Happy eating, everybody.
Happy eating.
E-Digits, 106.5 FM and KCAA 1050 AM. The message of Brother Stair lives on here in Southern California on KCAA, Monday through Friday from 1 to 5 a.m. Hear the worldwide broadcast of the Overcomer Ministry from the Faith Cathedral Fellowship. Call for prayer requests or to make a donation at area 843-599-1215, beginning at 1 a.m. Monday through Friday. Hear it here on KCAA, AM and FM.
Del Walmsley and the Wealth Cycle.
This is the wealth cycle that I've taught for 30 years. Buy one house, 10 houses, an apartment, 2 apartments, 8, 20, 500 units, 1,000 units, 2,000, 5,000 units. And as you keep putting the money and the profits back in, you become one of those rich people. And much quicker than you'd even believe.
Learn Del's Wealth Cycle at GiveMeTotalFreedom.com. Use promo code 2023. Save 60%. Code 2023. GiveMeTotalFreedom.com. GiveMeTotalFreedom.com.
The staff and families at Yard House of Temecula takes this time out to recognize and salute the local men and women in uniform standing tall for our political and economic freedom around the world. Let's always remember them in our thoughts and prayers. Their efforts abroad and our support has kept America strong. This message, courtesy of your good friends at Yard House of Temecula at 40770 Winchester Road in Temecula. They are always working to keep our community moving in a positive direction. Martinez Painting HD reminds drivers texting while driving is a leading cause of traffic accidents and fatalities. Do your part, put the phone down while driving. The life you save may be your own. That's a message from Martinez Painting HD, your complete painting contractors with a reputation for quality work at prices you can afford. Check out the reviews on Google and Yelp. Also, find them on Facebook and Instagram. For an estimate, call 760-617-6577. That's Martinez Painting HD in Hesperia, on the air because they care.
One in 5 California families spend more than 50% of their income on rent.
Come join Habitat for Humanity, famous for building decent, affordable homes, as we present a special fundraiser coming Thursday, March 23rd, starting at 5:30 p.m.
Make a difference. Stop by the Escape Brewery in Redlands. Escape Brewery at 721 Nevada Street. Habitat for Humanity San Bernardino area is raising money to build 7 brand new affordable homes in our area.
Come see the Sweet 16 NCAA playoffs on Escape's giant screen TV. Enjoy some delicious pizza, and for a modest donation, fill your Habitat branded pint glass with your favorite icy cold crafted beverage.
Take the opportunity